the growth of the right wing, a lot of men who are particularly working class, and working class, I'm not talking about race, I'm talking about working class men, regardless of race. There is this kind of feeling that you are being neglected, and with all these kind of things of like this gold standard, what you've got for a lot of men as they tend to get older, between the age of 25 and 55, is a lot of men who are suffering from mental health and committing suicide. So there's a various amounts of things, but then at the same time I'm talking about men who don't feel they achieve. I also have interviewed men who work in the banking industry and who also suffer from complex and mental health, because they work in an industry where everything's it's very much about the aesthetic and the houses and the income they bring in, but in behind all that there is a sense of insecurity.
Do you think the aesthetic is political? That was a joke.
Go on, sorry?
Do you think the aesthetic is political?
Okay, you get your point too. Whoa, it's like, it's open to interpretation. Like, I produced this work, and there is like, for the view of good politics, because if I'm just going to just break down the picture in front of you, which you can see over there, that is shot in Redcar in the north of England on this place called the Trunk Road. So when I look at this, when you look at the picture, you've got this guy who's sort of looking at the horizon. Now, the thing when you look about this picture, that this place called Tata, which is it's called, run by Tata Steel, it closed down, which had a huge impact on that in that particular area. So in terms of political, you've got this male who is naked and he's looking out, and from the conversations and research I've done and speaking to a lot of men, because a lot of my work is based on conversations, and these men saying how empty they felt inside. So when you've removed everything, there's this emptiness, this nakedness inside when you don't know where you're going to. So it's political sides because it is about this whole particular area. These males who are going to be unemployed, and then the change in political climate where things are going to Asia and it's too expensive to have steel manufacturing in the UK.
Thank you very much. We haven't finished with you yet. Dani,
Yeah.
looking at your work, it reflects heavily on themes of history, on the idea of industrial, and then the ideas of the magazine, and I can go on.
Okay.
The ideas of the manual.
Okay.
The question I really want to ask you is, how political is your political plug?
Okay, the political plug, if you haven't seen it, is upstairs. Oh yeah, no, it's not this one, it's the blue one. Yeah, it's the blue one.
Trying to find it here.
Yeah, it's alright.
It's there.
Please
It's there.
Okay,
There.
yeah, so this is the political plug. Basically, well, it is very political. This piece, it's something that I wanted to try something new. I've been doing lots of site-specific works, been doing some prints and performances, videos, but I wanted to make something, and I was a bit pissed off with what, well, just me, by the way, pissed off with about what's happening around us, and I had some time and some materials, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to make something very makeshift. Because it's full of screws, it's not really stable, and it's all on purpose. But at the same time, it took a lot of time to make, and it's messy, and it's the color of the EU flag. The plugs are all EU and UK adapters. So yeah, I think it's pretty political. There's a conversation about femininity and masculinity in there as well. Because in the end of the day, it's quite phallic, if you think about it, and it was on purpose. So there's a lot of layers there. And at the same time, what I wanted to make, something that is actually functionable. It functions. It is an extension. If you plug, all the plugs work. So it was again a comment on Brexit, because at the end of the day, whatever mess this is happening, the country will survive, and we have to make it, we have to adapt, basically, you know?
My follow-up question to you is the following. The chalk piece upstairs is not saleable.
No.
It, by its nature as a material, not collapses, but disappears.
Mm-hmm.
As a comment on society, and as a comment on materiality, what is your end?
Well, very well put, because those pieces, the site-specific that I call drawing, plugs and drawings, they are meant to be site-specific and not to last. They are temporal pieces, because I think we are capturing ourselves with lots of stuff. I work in museums as well, so I know that's full of stuff, and I just find very, I don't know, it sounds weird, but inspiring to do something that is not going to survive. I quite like that, and it's quite a thrill to see myself erasing or pulling off the tape sometimes, or painting the white wall on the top. It is really cool. Yeah, so it is obviously, there's a comment on materiality there.
I love the idea that the political plug is almost like a play on the idea of the word vagina. In the sense that it's a sheath for a man's sword. That's what it's always performative, it's always political in that sense. And yes, white chalk on a black background.
Yeah.
I shan't say no more. Kieran, your work is very explorative. It has an element of pushing the boundaries of what two materials can do, because you go beyond the canvas and you look towards creating new worlds, new possibilities. The question is, what is your end?
Yeah, that's a hard question again. The end to my work is, I called the series Interverse, so that's multiple universes, essentially, and it's a lot about this idea of the event. So what can we call an event? I made 11 of these canvases in total. I used 80 tins of spray paint, and I would puncture them. So I would let the paint, essentially explode onto the canvas, and then I would sort of frame like interesting, moments, and then I put another layer, and another, and another, and another. So each time I added another layer, it felt like it was a distinct event. Like it's like that only happened in that moment. And it's never going to happen again. That paint is never going to take the same form as it did at that moment. Because of environmental sort of conditions, or how I was feeling, how my hand moved at that time, like how much pressure was in the tin. So it's like a layering of multiple distinct events, which each event I see as like another universe, because at that point, like everything could have gone in a totally different sort of direction. So you've got what I look at as sort of multiple events on the canvas, and essentially the idea is looking at sort of multiple universes events. The idea is looking at all these things that happen across, let's just say, distinct moments in time and space, and it's about being able to look at multiple events and string some kind of story together. The end to it, my end was big data. That's what I started to think a lot about. Like each speck of paint, you could look at that as like, a pixel, or like a person, or an agent, or even another universe in itself. So it's a lot about extremes, like an extreme way of painting. I like to think that it stayed true to the idea of being abstract as well, where the paint, I'm not using the paint to try and represent anything. I'm not sort of arranging the paint, on the canvas so that it looks like like a human face or a like animal. It's completely abstract.
Your follow-up question is all about materiality and the idea behind materiality in your work. So I see that you strip away layers and then you cover them over. What is the thing that allows you in yourself to create and destroy at the same time?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Using spray paint. I'm from the sort of graffiti world where creation and destruction is like, the sort of ambiguity, between those two terms is like very common. It's like you're defacing someone else's property, but you're sort of creating something new at the same time. What is it that makes me create and destroy? I think as artists, that everyone's got to deal with that question at like some point. I think specifically for these, I'm like adding paint to the canvas, but I'm also taking some of it away, which is not how you'd work if you were painting, say, a conventional portrait in oil, because usually with portrait painting and oil it's completely additive. You're just adding more and more paint. Whereas here, I add and then I take some away, so you can see what was underneath it as well. So you have some kind of idea of like how it builds up, or you can see the sort of previous events, universes, as it were.
Thank you very much for that. I just had an idea in my head. David Ajay, who inspired part of this show, he made a comment on Instagram on his feed that a white wall is one of the most maximalist statements you can make, because the amount of engineering that goes behind it is so incredible. Leading me to Beatrice. Beatrice's work plays with the idea of seeing and being seen. Its relationship with its environment, of light, with this place is quite extraordinary. The mercurial nature of your process renders me in some ways sort of like puts me in a magical field, let's just put it that way. So let's look at the idea of the gaze. Who's looking at who in your work?
So the work itself started off from an Italian book, which is the author's Luigi Pirandello, and the book is No One, 100,000, One, No One and 100,000. And the book basically talks about how you're one to yourself, you're no one to the people who don't know you, and you're 100,000 different people to the different people who know you, because your personality changes and the way people view you is different, just in the same way it happens to art. So I could see a painting one way, but you could see it in a completely different light. And so when it boils down to the CCTV cameras, it's this idea, especially living in London, you constantly see CCTV cameras, and the project started by taking a photo of a CCTV camera, and then it kind of became an obsession, and then it linked in with this book and this sort of philosophy in a way. So it's this existential question, this question of, do I exist? Do people know I exist because they can see me through a CCTV camera screen? I mean, of recent news also of King's Cross doing facial recognition, and all of this is extremely exciting but also terrifying at the same time. And so that's, in a way, what I'm trying to get through with the CCTVs, that they keep on developing. So the ones upstairs, there's some that you can't see unless you shed a light on them, and then they'll appear. And now I'm starting to do filters with CCTVs, like Instagram filters, and expanding this eye, this gaze. Does it matter if we're being seen every day, or does it not matter? And does it make us exist more, or does it take away our existence and our privacy, our questions I'm looking at?
Thank you very much. I'm going to ask Beatrice one more question, and then I'm also going to ask the participants, the artists themselves, to ask each other, or to pose one question for you all to answer, since that's going to give you something to chew over. Beatrice, your work is quite passionate currently because of all the questions that you've raised yourself. Questions of surveillance, questions of where we are actually going as a society. I've heard about today autonomous weapons making decisions to execute human beings. So X-Men is not too far from our lives. Where is the will in that? But going back to the work itself as the prima facie point of our discussion, would you like to explain the work up there? The work in the glass up there? What does it say?
The braille.
The braille.
So the braille comes from a completely different project. So most of my artwork bases itself on language and communication, and the braille started off, it's called Language as Constellation, and it was initially it was meant to be a projection on a ceiling, and it was kind of a video and it was flashing. And the whole point of braille is that it's meant to be tactile, but if it's on a ceiling, you can't reach it. And the same thing works here, because it's a flat surface, you lose the braille, and in the braille there's written touch me, and then there's the finger pointing up